In this video, we're going to dive right into creating our own character based off of our doll mesh geometry. You can see that I already have a scene set up in Maya with some reference images to model against. Why don't we just start from the reference collage, and I'll show you how to set up a scene just like this. So the first thing I did was create a reference collage of all the things that I wanted to create for this character. As you can see, I have a bunch of Mandalorian concept art from the movies and drawings, as well as weaponry that I would like for him to have one day, as well as some reference for what's underneath the helmet. And that's what these two pictures are under here. He's going to be a Zabrak, which is the species of some other famous Star Wars character. So from the collage, you'll write a lore write-up on your character, where he comes from and what he does. And then you're going to want to find, if you can, draw or find a front and side view of this character. So I will show you exactly what I did to find these. I typed in Mandalorian character concept, and we go to images, and we find a bunch of concept art for the Mandalorian. And if you can find a character sheet like this one, as you can see, there's a bunch of these for Star Wars characters. You can, find just a quick reference to model off against, or you can draw your own. For the purposes of just making a quick video, I found one of these references, and then I took it into Photoshop and separated them. And then I separated them into two unique files that you can see. Let me pull it up. Here's my Maya project for my character. You can see that I cut them into two separate JPEGs that will now import into Maya. So I'll delete this. And what you want to do to start out with is you have your doll mesh, and hopefully you have your eyes and teeth in here too, because these are going to be really nice assets to have to keep you on track on how that you want your face to look. So go ahead and create a Maya project. So project window, all that stuff. I've already done this for this character, and what I want you to do is put your two profile pictures into the source images folder, and Maya will know exactly where to pull them from, and when you turn in your project, they'll all be automatically linked. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to create free image plane. You get this tiny little thing down here. Next, we're going to go and actually link by clicking on the attributes, link the image to the plane that we just created. And here at image name, it'll bring up our source images folder immediately if you're working inside of a Maya project. So that is my front image plane. So let's go ahead and name that front ref. And I'm going to duplicate it and call this side ref. And we're going to turn this one 90 degrees to the side, as you can see right here. But it's still showing our front picture, so let's go into our attributes and change this to side view. And hopefully if you cut them out in Photoshop just right, they'll automatically be the right size and height to one another. And then I'm just going to take both of these and go to a front view. And with both selected, I can scale them up and position them on my doll mesh as best as possible. So that's a little short. Let's keep going up. That's just about right. I'm basing this on the heels of the art, to the heels of my character, to account for perspective, and then obviously the top of the concept art. So maybe he's a little tall. There we go. Let's scale him up just a little bit more. So you're really trying to scale these image planes to how you see them. So, oh, looks like our guy is facing the wrong way. So I'm just going to go to my inspector, or my, I'm using Unity terms. I'm going to go to my channel box and do a -90 in the rotation. That'll get him facing the right way. And from here, we'll just position the side and the front relative to the views that we need. So you'll notice that a lot of these concept drawings will have a T pose or a strict A pose. And we modeled our character, our doll mesh, in a relaxed pose. So you have the option of reposing your character to match the reference here, but I'm going to go ahead and just leave him as he is. The next thing I'm going to do is move these references about 2 units back and 2 units to the side. So they're not messing with my character here, but if I look at them from my respective views, they are lined up perfectly still because there's no perspective in those orthographic views. And then we'll just select both of our image layers and make our third layer and call this image lay. And now we can lock those down as well. So all we can select is our mesh here. So now that we have our scene set up, we need to adjust our body to match our reference. So right now, you may have a character that is going to have a lot of body armor, like my character, or a lot of accessories all over their body. Right now, do your best to approximate how big their actual body is under all this stuff. That way, when you start building armor off of them, they'll more closely match the concept art with all the body armor. Because if you go ahead and match his regular flesh and blood arm to his gauntlet, then he's going to have a misshapen arm, and then when you add the gauntlet on it from after that, it's going to get a lot bigger in its mass. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go into view mode. You can see that I need to kind of lower my neck and chest. My crotch right here seems to be at the right area, and though my legs aren't separated as much in the concept art, maybe they do need to bulk up a little bit more as well. But I think the first thing I'm going to do is try to get this torso reined in and pulled down. So I'm going to go ahead and select all the vertices and the chest here. I'm going to turn on soft select with the B key. If you double click the tool over here on the left, we can get our soft selection menu pulled up, and you can kind of control the level of influence that it has. So it's not just that's with soft select. See how it nicely kind of stretches and shrinks here. This is without soft select and on one mode. So soft select will help us keep some of our original shape. There we go. And then the rest from here I'll handle with some sculpting tools. So let's go and grab my mesh tools, sculpting. Let's tear off that. I'm going to put it right over here. And I'm going to start with my grab tool. And we're just going to tug, and let's turn symmetry X on. Let's just tug and pull the body to make sense with our reference. And remember, I'm going to be kind of basing them a little bit smaller than the reference shows. I think I'm going to keep with my legs that I have. Here we go. Looks like that needs to come in. So if you can't see what I'm doing, I'm just kind of sculpting it in wireframe view to closely match what's in profile here. The relax tool reserves your mass, so keep that in mind. And we'll probably go in and refine some of these body parts so they're nice and set up to start pulling armor off of them. You can see that my head and eyes, or my eyes and teeth, need to come down as well. So let's go ahead and grab my anatomy reference. Let's do a center pivot so I can grab them all. And let's try to position them back to where they were. There we go. Here's a little bit more squat. All right. So our reference isn't exactly symmetrical, but that's fine. We just need an idea of how this character is going to be positioned because you're going to mirror duplicate anyway. So just try to focus on the left or right side when matching this stuff up. Not bad. And if your character is extremely different in proportions to a regular human or your regular doll mesh that you built, you might have a little bit more work cut out for you. But just use the soft select tools. Select some components, press B to soft select, and you get a little bit more lenience that way. And use the grab and the grab tool and the sculpting tools to kind of push and shove your silhouette where you want it to go. So next, I'm kind of going to come over and make the rest of the body match with the dimensions that my concept art has. We're not tethered by the skeleton anymore, so that's good. For the most part, a lot of the body parts are already kind of there. Our base mesh is looking nice. And from here, I'm going to start refining some of these parts to look good with the silhouette adjustment. Now it's going to kind of take your own eye to go in and, I don't really like the way those ankles look, and the butt needs some work, as well as the chest and shoulder region. So let's focus on these ankles and feet. This will turn into a boot, so I don't need to do any toes or anything. But the ankle's a little too thick and not shaped the best way. So I'm just going to go in with my sculpt tool on low settings and come up and kind of just refine how this ankle should be working. And then just push in that part. I'm thinking more of this as a boot or a shoe right now than a foot. Use my grab tool. Always use a bigger brush for my grab tool. So that goes in, that kind of comes out. That comes a little bit more out. Just push the ankle in there. And really, since we're in sub D mode with a low poly, just realize that what you're actually moving around are the actual intersections of these subdivided edges. See, it's just these little verts that you're pushing and shoving. And then I'm going to grab my bulge tool and give these feet a little bit more mass. So I like to go, let's give some more strength to this one. The bulge tool a little bit more forgiving when it comes to building up masses because it tries to retain somewhat of the shape. What it's actually doing is just ballooning out the vertices rather than just pulling them straight up at the camera like the sculpt tool would. I'm noticing that's kind of a little crooked. And let's get the arch accounted for right there. Shoes still have somewhat of an arch built into them. And they're a little flat right here on the side here. All right. So that's the foot with a little bit more thickness. Next, I'm going to just go in and hand touch some verts. So this foot should probably be flat. So I'm going to select the bottom verts underneath it. We'll scale them flat. Oh, turn off soft select. Scale them flat. Snap them up to the bottom here. And now we're getting a little bit more of a foot feel. I'm going to turn on my soft select for this and lower the fall off. And just rotate this more so it's a little bit flatter. Next, I'm going to grab my relax brush on a low strength and kind of try to relax some of this geometry. So it just flows a little bit more organically. All right, there we go. Let's bulge out the calves a little bit more right there. You might have to touch up some of your anatomy once you start making the character. That's just kind of how it goes. All right, nice. Next, let's work on the gluteus and the pelvis region. So I guess I'm going to start with the bulge tool. And just try to build back at least some of that I had to flatten. And just refine it as best I can. Let's bulge out his legs a little bit more. There we go. And then I'll grab my relax tool, come back in and get my edge flow nice and organic looking again. Let's see what that looks like. Looking pretty good. I'm still not happy with how flat that is though. There we go. And then we'll hold down shift and bulge in around the waistline. There we go. Just at this point, I'm not tying myself exactly to my reference silhouette. I'm just sculpting it in a way that fits the character model itself now. Just bulge out those quadriceps. Nice. And the relax tool with a low strength, just to come in and take off any of the rough edges going around. Next, let's refine the chest area a little bit more. Again, I just like using the bulge tool to make big mass adjustments. Let me get a little bit more strength. I like shrinking mass with bulge, shift click and bulge. I mean, this is a warrior, so he's going to be a little built. Notice how I'm always just changing my view around. I'll make a few tweaks, and then I'll look and see what it looks like from a slightly different angle. Moving the camera around, pretty important. Let's bulge out those triceps just a little bit. Just a bunch of different, you don't want to just do that too much, because if you undo, then you undo a lot of work. But if you click, 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 then not only do you make more subtle adjustments and achieve your form a little bit more nuanced, but if you need to undo something, you don't undo a whole big brush stroke. Okay. Now I'm going to do a whole section on just the face, getting the face just the way I want for my character. So that's all refinement. There's really no way to kind of just do some quick adjustments. So I'll come back to the face later. And don't forget to zoom out as well. I can see there's something weird going on with the shoulder from that angle there. So let's smooth it. There we go. It's a little less monstrous looking. And then let's just bring in the lats real quick. Looking at things from top down reveals a lot as well. So just keep in mind that we're just using a very low poly character. We're not trying to get too fancy with our first character this time around. So just make the best of what you can with what you got here. We'll get it. You can get into sculpting a little bit later inside of a program like ZBrush or Mudbox. But you can get away with a lot if you're just careful. Next, let's examine the hand here. And for the most part, it's pretty good, except my fingers are really thin. So I think I'm just going to hand scale these up, thicken them up. Turn off soft select, and we'll just scale up the joints one at a time, because I'm thinking about gloves at this point for this character. I'll go back in and refine these shapes with my sculpt tool. But the more I can accomplish now, notice how I'm kind of going over every span. I'm choosing to do it by edge loops. You can select verts as well, but I like doing it this way because it keeps you from scaling up a whole finger and making it too long. You really can just focus on scaling. And when I start making the gloves, I'll get rid of those fingernails. I'm just worried about, like I said, the major forms of my body right now. So these gloves are going to be a lot more bulky than the little skinny fingers that I had. Probably most fingers would be bigger in general. But that's why we have the doll mesh, so we can just go in and make whatever we need really quickly like this, instead of having to do a whole one from scratch. So we'll select those edge loops and scale them up. That one. And I'll just grab the verts on this fingertip as well. And I'm going to grab my bulge brush now. Kind of just go in. I'm going to lower the strength. I'm just going to go in and sculpt the rest of my mass for my thumb. See how it just nicely inflates whatever's going on? You probably could have started with bulge from the get-go if you wanted to. So I'm just going to bulge them up from the sides a little bit more. See how I'm just kind of going down the sides? It's all about finding the right strength of the tool as well. And let's bulge up the actual meat of the hand in general as well. I'm going to grab my relaxed brush and just kind of relax the shape a little bit. If you haven't picked up by now, a lot of sculpting is building, 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 smoothing down, smoothing down. Looks like my knuckles were getting overlooked here. I'm definitely going to have to come in with a relaxed tool. Starting to intersect weirdly. If you find that your topology is just getting out of whack, you can go back in and fix it. Like these edge bridges, they should be closer to the knuckle. So I'm going to go select my edge, shift and right click, and slide edge. Where are you at? Slide edge tool. I'm just going to slide them back. Slide edge tool. Let's grab my slide edge tool once more. And there we go. All right. So my hands look a little big for me, but I've basically sculpted out the proportions for the glove. So when I start building on the mass of the gauntlet, it'll look more at home. But that's basically building out my proportions for my characters based on my reference art here. Let's go on now and start making our base geometry for all of our accessories.